This is from a collection called Thirst, a poem by Mary Oliver called Praying. It doesn't have to be the blue iris. It could be weeds in the vacant lot or a few small stones. Just pay attention, then patch a few words together, and don't try to make them elaborate. This isn't a contest, but the doorway into thanks and a silence in which another voice may speak. Please remain seated now as we join in singing hymn number 15, The Lone Wild Bird. Hello. So it begins. A conversation that over time might grow into a relationship that might change your entire life. Hello. It might announce simply that I am present. Hello. It might express awareness that someone else is present. Or, hello? It might be a question, a call, a wondering. What might be present beyond myself? So many important conversations begin with hello. Prayer and meditation, along with all contemplative experience, can be seen quite simply as a conversation with life, with mystery, with the interdependent web, with something impossible to describe or understand, and with something most importantly that is not me. In her book, Help, Thanks, Wow, The Three Essential Prayers, Anne Lamott writes, "Prayer is communication from the heart to that which surpasses understanding." Such a conversation can arise unexpectedly, and it will be uniquely personal. As a minister, I hear about many such conversations, and I'm always struck by how very specific they are. But I shouldn't be surprised, because every relationship is unique and specific. Contemplation, prayer, or the inner conversation is no different. It is deeply connected to our true self, which is both uniquely personal, yet connected intrinsically with the universal whole. Recently, I heard a member of the congregation tell a powerful story about finding strength from an unexpected source during a difficult time. On a dark night, he found himself going outside, looking up at the moon and speaking to it as if it were a friend. He told his friend the moon what was going on and how he was feeling, and he found himself strengthened by the exchange. So he returned again the next night, saying, "It's me again, moon. I'm back." And feeling once again the powerful sense that the moon was present to him in a way he had never experienced before. It was, he said, as if he was not only communicating with the moon, but communing with it. I asked him if I could tell you this story because I felt it spoke so powerfully to our theme today of hello, of opening up a conversation with life or with another, however we might conceive of this supportive presence. I also recently heard another member of the congregation speak of her experience in meditation, and she also gave me permission to share it with you. She said that while sitting in meditation, she discovered an immense inner world inside herself, more to explore there, and resources within. She called meditation a deep befriending of myself, an embodied experience that isn't about the Buddha. And she also said she feels it's good preparation for aging and dying. Our Unitarian Universalist fourth principle calls for the encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Prayer takes place in every culture, in every corner of the world, and has throughout history. Many studies have shown the numerous health benefits of meditation, including the lowering of stress hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline. And Carl Jung once said that there is no problem in the second half of life that cannot be solved with contact with what he called the numinous. Yet many of us in this room, including myself, may have felt reluctant at times to begin the conversation that takes place during prayer and meditation. Why, I wonder, would we not want to say hello, especially when the conversation would be completely private and we wouldn't have to tell anybody about it? Well, at the beginning especially, it might feel really risky. When we say hello in prayer or sit in complete silence in meditation, we enter into completely new territory. We open up to silence and mystery. We begin a dialogue with other, that which is essentially connected to us, but is utterly unlike the us that we are familiar with, very comfortable with. As we know from everyday experience, entering into a new relationship with something or someone we don't yet know can be a big challenge, and as a result, we might avoid it. As contemporary wisdom teacher Richard Rohr puts it, the ego wants containment and control. It is only the soul that wants meaning and mystery. Our individual self loves to be in charge, so it might resist meditation and prayer. Yet virtually every religious path teaches us that we must die before we die. That is, we must surrender, not once, but many times, our sense of ourselves, releasing into a larger self, capital S, in order to grow into spiritual maturity. Every time we sit in meditation, we experience the demise of the ego. We become aware, sometimes painfully, of our personal wants and desires, yet we choose instead to sit in silence, listening for whatever arises, being present to life without our usual tricks, habits, and props. This can be very difficult to do. But as has been proven now scientifically in so many health studies, saying hello to something beyond ourselves, something that might seem like absolutely nothing, and is certainly nothing at all like our separate self, It does us a world of good. It's just like opening up to inclusion in other spheres of life. We can say hello to the Creator, the universe, God, the source, the presence, the mystery. Or we can say hello in prayer to other people, to things, to imaginary friends, to the falling snow. It doesn't matter to whom or what we pray. Everything can be a doorway into wholeness. As Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh writes, we can pray to the pine tree, the moon, and the stars. The pine tree is quite solid. The moon is always on time. And the stars are always there for us, free and bright. If we are deeply in touch with the pine tree, he says, we are able to be in touch with the one mind. When we dare to say hello in this way, we open up to a relationship that can transform our lives. Once we've said hello, whether enthusiastically or tentatively, the relationship will then need tending. But the more we return to the conversation, the better we'll get at it. It's much like practicing a new language. You may have noticed this yourself in other forms of contemplative communication that I see as akin to prayer. Take, for example, dream work. When you notice and appreciate your dreams, perhaps writing them down and reflecting on their meaning, you'll notice that you remember more dreams. The same is true of synchronicity. When we affirm and delight in these demonstrations of the interdependent web of existence, they seem to happen more often, adding beauty and meaning to our lives in the most personal of ways. Many artists have found, as I have, that when we are deep in the flow of creative experience, an elegant solution will often present itself without our conscious effort, and in a way that seems to transcend our personal abilities. When we gaze at an object to draw it, or play a musical instrument to draw out its sound, we are present to it with our full attention in a way that often lets us lose our self. That's how art making, too, can become a spiritual conversation, a form of meditation or prayer. On the other hand, if we don't open ourselves up to conversations with the unknown, the relationships don't tend to flourish. We've probably all done that. Thought we wouldn't get along with a certain person or a group, perhaps not even noticed someone with whom we could enter into a new conversation. I think this is helpful to explore. Although we affirm that we are open and inclusive and welcoming to all, we all are at times closed and rejecting and fearful. This does not make us bad people. It just means we're human. The task of spiritual growth is to grow beyond these smaller ways of relating to the world, which are completely normal and protective at times, so that we can grow into new ways of being in relationship with life. Contemplative experience has been called an attitude of inner hospitality, in which we welcome those aspects of life and of ourselves which we may not like, know, or fully understand. Perhaps you've had the experience of really not caring for a certain type of music or a certain food, and after opening yourself up to a relationship with it, you find it enriches your life and you wouldn't want to live without it anymore. Well, that can be how it is with prayer and meditation. And the really beautiful, elegant part of it is that having that conversation with Creator, with Dream Maker, with Self, with whatever it is, can help all our conversations go better. Not the least of which is the ongoing conversation we're always having with ourselves. The style, timing, and address of our prayer is not so important as long as we say a genuine hello. As Unitarian Universalists, we put a lot of emphasis on outer action in the world, as well we should. Yet sometimes I fear we do this without attending equally to the inner work of contemplative experience. In his excellent book, The Prophetic Imperative, Social Gospel in Theory and Practice, UU minister and theologian Richard S. Gilbert writes, "The deeper that we delve into the innermost recesses of our souls, the more intensely we identify with other human beings. The further inward we explore, the more we see our common humanity. The more the unseen moves us, the more we understand the hidden bonds of community." And so, Gilbert writes, the deeper we probe spiritually, the more we identify with others and cast our lot with them in battling all that keeps us from celebrating our mystic bonds. At this congregation, of course, we start our services by saying that service is our prayer. I wonder, what if prayer could also be our service? Our service to ourselves, that we might become more in tune, more at peace, more at home in life, no matter how things turn out. And our service to the world, that we might become more deeply welcoming, more able to live graciously, more skillful at making choices that are grounded in love. Richard Rohr writes, "If your prayer goes deep, your whole view of the world will change from fear to connection, because you don't live inside your fragile and encapsulated self anymore. In meditation, you are moving from ego consciousness to soul awareness, from being driven to being drawn." Now, this doesn't mean the conversation will be easy, as anyone who has sat for agonizing minutes in silence or cried out to an unbelieved-in God will agree. But it is a conversation that I believe can enrich us, sustain us, and indeed grow us into what life wants for us. And so, may we open ourselves in whatever ways we can to the mystery, the silence, the big I don't know, to the teacher, the friend, the tree, the moon, to the presence that is waiting for us, that is longing for us to say hello.